Hello, 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 everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the Fight Sub world. This is Fiberstar95. Happy Sunday, you all. I hope you're all doing great. And today we're officially back with another installment of 50 States and 50 Streams. Today we're here in Louisiana. That's right, we're in the Bayou today. I hope you're all having a great day, and we're right here in Shreveport Downtown Airport, just outside of downtown Shreveport, Louisiana, in the northwest corner of the state. So I hope you're all doing well here today. Happy Sunday. I hope you all had a great weekend. And we're going to be doing some interesting flying here today. We got some pretty cool flights planned and a really interesting route. As well. One of the bigger things to go on today is Louisiana is definitely a really cool state. And I've been to Louisiana myself. I visited New Orleans as well. Cool city. And very neat place to visit. So before we get started, I do want to say hello to all you guys here in chat. Hello to all the lurkers and stuff. Good to have you guys on board today. Let's go over our flight plan for a brief moment. Let's go over today's flight plan. So our flight plan is going to be here. We'll start here at Shreveport Downtown Airport. Then we'll fly over downtown Shreveport, Louisiana. And then we'll fall on the Red River for a bit, one of the tributaries of the Mississippi, and we're going to go all the way down to another waypoint. This is one of the oldest settlements in the state. This is Natch. I think it is pronounced as Natch. Oh, it's just Natchitoches, Louisiana. That is where we're at. Natchitoches, Louisiana, and it is the oldest city in permanent settlement in the state. Then we'll make our first stop here at Alexandria Airport in Alexandria. Then from Alexandria we'll head south for a bit, and we're actually going to head over to one of the larger cities in the state, Lafayette, Louisiana. We'll check out Lafayette. And we'll explore downtown Lafayette, explore the area, before heading back northeast and visit the state capital of Louisiana, Baton Rouge. We'll check out LSU Tiger Stadium, pride and joy of Louisiana State University. And of course, we'll also be flying over the state capital before we eventually make our next stop here at Baton Rouge Metropolitan Airport. Stop here at Kilo Bravo Tango Romeo. And then from there, we'll head to New Orleans, of course, the city of Mardi Gras. We'll be visiting downtown New Orleans, the Mardi Gras world, and we're going to fly along this part of the Mississippi River. There's the National World War II Museum, pretty prominent here in this city. And of course, you can't forget about the historic French Quarter. And finally, from there, we'll make our final stop here at Lakefront Airport, Kilo November Echo Whiskey. So yeah, that is going to be. So we'll be checking out New Orleans. So very cool stuff, guys. That's what our flight plan is going to be today. So the airport we'll be flying here on this today's stream, this morning's stream, is the Aviat Pitts S2. Yes, I'll be taking an Aerobax plane with us, but this goes around 150 knots, which is where we're going to be targeting anyways. But this biplane is extremely maneuverable. And it's a favorite, among aerobatic pilots. Love flying this thing, and this has been featured in various aerobatic competitions throughout the 60s and 70s, and even today in a lower category. But it's a great little aerobatic plane. It's used by both civilian and even military operators. Very popular plane. The S2 particularly the S2 can actually go, and it can cruise up to 152 knots. Range of 277 nautical miles, and it can climb up to a surface ceiling of 21,000 feet. So let's go ahead and get our kit started. Here we go, guys. Here today. So our first slide is going to take us to Shreveport, Louisiana. This will be our first city we'll be flying over this morning. So Shreveport is the third most populous city in Louisiana after New Orleans and Baton Rouge. This city is most well known for being for where Louisiana and Texas meet. As the crossroads between Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas meet, is a major cultural center of that region. It was founded in 1836 by the Shrevetown Company on the Texas Trail. Between the juncture of the Texas Trail and the Red River, and it became one of the natural centers of the oil industry during the 20th century, thanks to the Standard Oil of Louisiana and United Gas Corporation headquartered in the cities. So nowadays, it did struggle for a brief period with drugs, poverty, and crime, but nowadays it's started to lower its crime, though in 2021 it did have the most homicides in today's history. It's also there's multiple companies with operations and headquarters here, including Amazon, Regions Financial, Sam's Town Hotel, AT&T Mobility, Walmart, General Electric, and more. But it's a pretty interesting city. Most well known for being part of its own air shows at Barksdale. They got a springtime festival, the Holiday in Dixie. It's got, of course, Mardi Gras parades that date back to the mid-19th century, and more. Pretty cool stuff. Also on point, it did have a professional sports team, mainly a Canadian football team. One point, the Shreveport Pirates play Canadian football here. So, pretty interesting stuff here at Shreveport, Louisiana. I'm gonna go ahead and take off here. Go ahead and take off. He can be a bit twitchy. Here it is, downtown Shreveport. Here's woo! Yeah, this is something about the pitch you gotta be careful about with her. She can give me quite the little plane if you're not careful. But she's insanely maneuverable though, this Pitts. Look at that. feels blistering quick for all of it. Look at the views out here. Yeah, downtown Shreveport. Woo! She can be surprisingly stable if you want her to be, if you want this plane to be stable. She's a fun plane. I do like the pits. It is a really fun plane, especially if you want to do some dogfighting or maneuverability. Let's pitch her back in the right direction. Into all of it. So we're going to talk about Louisiana for a bit. Get back to our slides. And we'll cover about the U.S. state of Louisiana, because this is a very different state than a lot of other territories. Let's talk a little bit about the U.S. state of Louisiana as we're here. We don't have to fly very high, around 2,000 feet would be our elevation for today. So let's talk about the U.S. state of Louisiana. So Louisiana is located in the deep south and south central regions of the United States. It borders the U.S. states of Texas, Arkansas, and Mississippi. Of the U.S. 50 states, Louisiana is 31st in area and about the average 25th in population, so it's around halfway, with about 4.6 million residents. However, this state's unique, as unlike other states, it's actually all the subdivisions are termed as parishes due to its French heritage. Because yes, this was not only a French colony, but Louisiana was probably the most important French colony in the Americas, in this area outside North America, outside of Quebec. So makes it pretty unique. Its largest city is New Orleans, which has 383,000 people live in the city of New Orleans. Live in New Orleans, Louisiana. Of course, Louisiana is known for being the bayou, with its coastal marsh and swamps, which as a result has many species of animals like ibises, egrets, tree frogs, fish like sturgeon and paddlefish, and of course, there also is a large number of plant species like orchids and even carnivorous plants. But of course, Louisiana really grew with the French. And as a result, in fact, it was extremely important for the French to have Louisiana before it was given to the Spanish, then being given back to Napoleon in 1803, and then the United States bought it as part of the Louisiana Purchase, which is what it's based on. But of course, the most unique thing about Louisiana has got to be its heritage and culture. This is what really sets Louisiana apart from nearly every other U.S. state. No, seriously. It may be among the most culturally rich and unique U.S. states. Unlike many other U.S. states, it has a rich heritage of Louisiana French, Spanish, French Canadian, Acadian, Creole, Native American, West African cultures, bring into its cultures, compared to many others in the southern United States. And it gets even more so with more recent migrants as well. However, Louisiana never had an official language and stuff, and as a result, they are pretty colorful. However, Louisiana does rank low in national averages, and especially in health, education, and development. And it was ranked as the least healthiest state in the country. But despite that, though, there is definitely some really cool things about Louisiana that I think make it a very... And yes, it is sinking. I mean, to be fair, a lot of this area is very low lying, Typhon. You're not wrong, especially New Orleans. However, there is some interesting history to bring up here when we're talking about Louisiana. One of the more interesting things was when you look at its pre-colonial history. Louisiana is the place of origin for many of the mound builders' culture during the archaic period in the 4th millennium BC. In fact, they found sites that date back to 5600 to 5000 BP. So they show a lot of hunter-gatherers organizing this area. Then nearly 2,000 years later, Poverty Point was built, the best known late archaic site in the state. And in fact, you can find the modern-day city of Epes built around it. And the peak of the Poverty Point culture was 1500 BC, making it the first complex culture and possibly the first tribal culture in North America, lasting until 700 BC. Of course, afterwards, you have the Mississippian period as well. That later on was the Mississippi period, named after, of course, the Mississippi River, with the Plaquemine and the Cadonian Mississippi cultures were developed. And they mainly did a lot of extensive maize agriculture and maize, with many various strains of plants. They began around from 1200 to around 1600s. Of course, obviously the Europeans tried to take this area again. The first Europeans to visit Louisiana was in 1528 with when the Spanish came with Panfilo de Narvaez came into the mouth of the Mississippi River. Then Hernando de Soto's expedition skirted the north and west of the state, out of both the Caddo and Tunique groups, then followed the Mississippi River down to the Gulf of Mexico. However, the Spanish lost interest for a century and a half. However, it wasn't actually the Spanish who took this area, it was the French, especially with French and Canadian expeditions, which include sovereign religious and commercial aims, established a foothold in the Mississippi rivers in the Gulf Coast. And with its first settlements, France laid claim to a vast region of North America, called New France. It stretched from Gulf of Mexico all the way to Canada. Fun fact, of course, obviously no Robert Callot de la Salle. He actually named it Louisiana to honor King Louis XIV of France, which, if you guys aren't aware about King Louis XIV, he is simply known as the Sun King, one of the most powerful monarchs in the world during his time. Now, the first permanent settlement in Louisiana was founded called Fort Maurepas, now known as Ocean Springs, Mississippi. Yes, it's actually Mississippi, but Louisiana is the region. By Pierre Lemoyne d'Iberville, a French military officer from New France. Then there was a royal ordinance in 1722 that followed the crown's transfer of the Illinois County's governance from Canada to Louisiana. And it featured the broadest definition of the state, because at one point, all land claimed by France south of the Great Lakes, between the Rocky Mountains and Alleghenies, were it became known as Louisiana. So yes, Louisiana used to be far, far larger than it is right now as we speak. Of course, the settlement of the town of Natchitoches, with Natchitoches settlements in 1714, it made it the oldest permanent European settlement in the modern state, and allowed the French to trade with the Spanish in Texas, and to deter Spanish advances into Louisiana, and became a border and rivers port with vast cotton kingdoms. Of course, unfortunately for the French, they ceded most of its territory east of the Mississippi to Great Britain in 1763, during the Britain's victory in the 7 Years' War. Of course, Louisiana and all that was actually given to the Spanish after the war, under the Treaty of Fontainebleau. And during Spanish rule, several thousand Acadians from the French colony of Acadia made their way to Louisiana after being expelled from Acadia by the British government out of the French and Indian War. They settled chiefly in southwest Louisiana, known as Acadiana, and those Acadians became the ancestors of the modern Cajuns, Louisiana. Of course, Spanish Canary Islanders also settled here in Spanish Louisiana between 1778 and 1783. And then in 1800, Napoleon actually acquired Louisiana from Spain in the Treaty of San Ildefonso, an arrangement that was actually kept for 2 whole years. Yes, 2 whole years. Of course, Louisiana has a rich, has unfortunately got a long, complicated history with slavery, because French treated the slaves pretty rough. All that. Of course, Napoleon's ambitions with Louisiana created a new empire in the Caribbean sugar trade. Because yes, Napoleon wanted to expand on the sugar trade and all that. By the Treaty of Amiens in 1802, Great Britain returned the control of islands of Martinique and Guadeloupe to the French. However, with U.S. settlement and the Haitian Revolution happened, eventually Napoleon's brother-in-law was defeated, and in order to get more money, Napoleon sold Louisiana. And he decided to actually sell it to the United States, which was negotiated with Thomas Jefferson, the president of the U.S. during that time. And the United States eventually gets Louisiana for $3.5 million. And in this territory, actually, and they paid for $3 million as well. And the U.S. managed to get it with a colossal entire territory, 820,000 square miles, for about 60 million francs, which is about 15 million US dollars. But trust me, it was well worth the money, if you ask me, for the United States. Of course, Louisiana became, after the U.S. took the area was divided into 2 territories around the 33rd parallel north. One became known as the Territory of New Orleans and the District of Louisiana to the north. Of course, soon after, Louisiana was admitted as the 18th state of the country in April 30th, 1812. Now, in the territory of New Orleans became the modern Louisiana, and the Louisiana Territory was then renamed the Missouri Territory, which lasted until 1821. As creation, Louisiana didn't include any area north and east of the Mississippi River, known as the Florida parishes. They later got extended good borders to those parishes as well. Well, of course, during the Civil War era, Louisiana had a large slave population, that nearly half the population slaves. The strong economic interest of the whites contributed to Louisiana's decision to secede from the Union in 1861. However, it was quickly defeated in the U.S. Civil War, thanks to the Union strategy to cut Confederacy by controlling the Mississippi River. However, because a large part had Union sympathies, Louisiana actually designated Louisiana as federal control with its own representatives. Of course, post-Civil War, there was a lot of violence in the state, probably because of private and paramilitary groups, as well as the initial rise of black participation in voting, though, of course, former Confederates dominated the state legislature in the 1870s, and black codes were implemented to restrict their vote, which will later become the Jim Crow laws, and white Democrats have established one-party rule in the state until the 1965 Voters' Rights Act. That happened. In the early decades of the 20th century, some African Americans left Louisiana for the Great Migration, as they favored for more jobs, as it would be more easy jobs, and to escape the Jim Crow society and lynching. During some of the Great Depression, Louisiana had a really unique governor called Huey Long. He was elected office because he was a populist, one of the first major populists in American society. His public works provided thousands of jobs to people in need, and he supported education and suffrage for poor whites, though he was criticized for his demagogic and autocratic style. But Huey Long's a really interesting figure. Of course, unfortunately, his rules were ended because he was assassinated in the state capitol in 1935. But Huey Long, absolutely interesting figure to learn about. Because, like I said, he has a really unique, he's very unique compared to many other politicians, literally. Of course, mobilization for World War II created jobs in the state, but thousands of other workers migrated to California for better jobs in the defense industry, especially with many African Americans leaving through the Second Great Migration to escape social oppression and better jobs. Combine that with mechanization of agriculture, it would really hurt Louisiana as well. Of course, one interesting event that happened during this time, of course, the state created a new requirement for votership tests. However, black voters increased registration rates. And of course, the civil rights movement also happened here in Louisiana as well, especially for those as well. And they were found and eventually were involved with the civil rights movement. And as a result, African Americans got more opportunities to finally vote for one. Of course, however, due to its location around the Gulf of Mexico, Louisiana has had dealt with a lot of hurricanes and tropical storms. But the most notorious one was Hurricane Katrina in August 29th, 2005, when Hurricane Katrina struck New Orleans and many other parts of the state, and it caused widespread damage and flooding to over 80% of the city. Tens of thousands of people stayed behind, stranded, and many people died. Wow. But yeah, if you know anything about Katrina, probably. Hey, good to see you, OG Inferno Ninja. Good to see you. Hope you're well, my dude. Oh, thanks for giving him a shout out. I didn't know he streamed. Thank you for giving him a shout out. Typhon. So we're in Louisiana today, and we just covered a little bit about Louisiana's history. But as you can tell, Louisiana has a really rich history to cover. And yes, unlike many other U.S. states, it has lots of French influence due to the French settling this region. It's pretty unique in that regard. Oh, tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day, by the way. That's... We're taking the Pitts special, and we're going to fly it around in Louisiana. So, we're doing pretty well here. This is the Red River, by the way. It flows through much of Louisiana. So we're in Louisiana. We're gonna head to our first settlement here today, in our first, our next waypoint for the stream. Here it is. This is the Red River. The Red River is, it flows through much of Louisiana, but it actually goes from Texas all the way to Louisiana. It goes through northern Texas, some bits of Arkansas, and then Louisiana. It goes through Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. In fact, the Red River thing is what gave the Red River rivalry its nickname. Because the Red River separates Texas and Oklahoma. the first place we'll be visiting here on this flight, the next stop, is Natchitoches. Natchitoches is the parish seat of its own parish. This city has a population of 18,000 people. It's the most populous city in its parish. It was established in 1714 by Louis Duchereau de Saint Denis as part of French Louisiana. It was named after the indigenous Natchitoches people. It was incorporated in February 5th, 1819, after Louisiana became a state, and it's the oldest permanent settlement in the land acquired by the Louisiana Purchase. It's also home to Northwestern State University. This city grew a lot during the trade. It was a major trade city, especially for cotton, thanks to its parishes with the Magnolia Plantation and Oakland Plantations. And each of those were landmarks. Of course, after the cotton plantations, it later grew into a fur trade factory built in this parish. During the Civil Wars, it was set on fire by Union soldiers who retreated through the town after their failed attempt to capture Shreveport as well. And then Union and Confederate troops were responsible for burning many of the plantations. Of course, during the 20th century, it suffered a decline for agricultural production. But it did grow more so once it preserved a lot of the intact buildings and plantations to attract new visitors, so tourism becomes a pretty big deal here as well. And as a result, it's got a lot of historic plantations. Talks about the history of both slavery and the aftermath and such, as well as contributions of blacks, reels of color for the community. Of course, one of the most interesting events of this city was, of course, in 1973 when singer-songwriter Jim Croce was killed when his plane was leaving the regional airport. He was one of the more important figures that passed away in this city. But lots of historic stuff to learn more about this settlement. We're going to go ahead and fly to her. Next thing is, this is an aerobatic plane. We're going to fly to the settlement. Again, I don't have autopilot, so that's why I have a little nav map to guide me where I want to go. Here's the historic settlement, Natchitoches. We're gonna head this way down over to... Yeah, blue tube is my fuel. Yes, I know. Yep, blue tube is definitely my fuel. Yes, I got 13 on my main fuel. I still got 15 more on my auxiliary, so well to change. But thank you for pointing that out, Typhon. But yes, I know that's my fuel. I've known this from having to deal with the push point. So, as for next week's streams, for next week, on Wednesday, we'll be flying out of our brand new hub in Stockholm. I never got the chance to fly out earlier, so we're going to do some Firefly Air flying. I think we're going to do a two-part stream. Part one will be a Firefly Air flight from Stockholm over to Helsinki. We'll be taking the, we'll be flying the, we're going to fly the 7-4 out of here. We're going to fly from Arlanda to Helsinki. We're going to take the citation longitude for that. I want to take a business jet flight. Stockholm to Helsinki. We'll be doing that. And then from and then part two we'll be doing Brazil World Update. We're going to take the Cap 4 Palestina, and we're going to do some flying around the Rio de Janeiro area. So we're going to fly from SDTK. We're going to fly around the Rio de Janeiro coast, and then eventually end up in Rio de Janeiro. We'll probably land at Santos Dumont or Galeão, but we'll fly over downtown Rio de Janeiro and visit some parts of the New World Update that just came out. We'll do that, and we'll do a two-part stream. That's what we're going to be doing on Wednesday. On next Friday, we'll be covering my home state, guys. Indiana's going to be my home state, so we're going to cover the Hoosier State on Friday. We'll cover Indiana. We'll go from Evansville over to South Bend. We'll be checking out Indianapolis and such. Pretty cool stuff. And then on Sunday, we'll fly the last day to part 2, Mississippi. 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 So we'll check out Mississippi on Sunday. I'll wrap up part 2 of 5. So that'll wrap things up. So let's talk a little bit about Louisiana's geography for a bit, because Louisiana is definitely a pretty flat state, among the flatter states in the country. And the state is divided into 2 parts. The state. First things first is Louisiana is in 2 parts. You have the uplands to the north, which is North Louisiana, and the alluvial plains of the Mississippi River across the coast. And it contains a lot of the low swamplands, coastal marshlands, beaches, and barrier islands that cover around 12,000 square miles. Of course, the breadth of this region is around 10 to 60 miles along other rivers across. And of course, the Mississippi plays a big role in this area. The higher contiguous hilllands of the north and northwest have an area around 25,000 square miles, and the elevations range from 10 feet to swamplands of 50 to 60 feet at the prairie alluvial land. And the state's highest point is only 535 feet at Driscoll Mountain. Yes, it is not a very high state at all, and it is pretty flat. Of course, there's lots of waterways, but mainly the big one being the Mississippi River that flows from Minnesota all the way to the Gulf of Mexico, and the Red River, Owacha River, and more. There's also lots of other rivers and other waterways in Louisiana. Of course, the big part about Louisiana, of course, is that artificial levees are a big deal. However, one of the fastest growing areas in the world is the southern coast of Louisiana. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that the people mismanaged the coast. At one time, the land was added when springs flood the Mississippi River across settlement and marsh growth. Now it's shrinking. Some of those causes include artificial levees, extensive logging of the swamps, leaving canals and ditches that allow saltwater to move inland, canals dug for oil and gas industry, rising seawaters exacerbated are causing all of it. There are some proposals to save those areas, mainly restore natural floods and more. And of course, there's also a dead zone around the Gulf of Mexico as well. Of course, Louisiana also has some really unique fauna too. One of its unique pieces of fauna, of course, is the rich animal life. Thanks to its swamplands, bayous, creeks, woodlands, coast marshlands, beaches, and barrier islands. All big parts of it. 40 species of mammals reside in Louisiana, excluding marine mammals, and there are 70 other mammal species in the state. Some of these species include species of squirrels like eastern gray squirrels, rabbits like eastern continental swamp rabbits, and yes, it has its own black bear populations. As crazy as it sounds, yes, black bears do make their home here. Though at one point they used to be a lot more common. However, nowadays black bears aren't as common as they used to be, but they're mainly found only in a few parishes around the state. Of course, a lot of you guys probably know the most important part of Louisiana, and that being its reptile species. This is actually where Louisiana is definitely most well known for its animals, particularly the state's official reptile, the American alligator. Believe it or not, Louisiana's actually got the largest population of these alligators. More than any other state, even more than Florida, funnily enough. And they bounced back from near extinction to becoming relatively common, and as a result, it's also home to other reptiles. Eastern diamondback rattlesnake, Texas squirrel snake, mud racer, cottonmouth, pit vipers, and the king snake all make their homes here. Of course, it's also home to America's largest freshwater turtle, the mighty alligator snapping turtle, as well as other reptile species like snapping turtles, tortoises, skinks, and glass lizards. So yes. And finally, for birds, there's a lot of bird species here in the state, 160 of them to be exact. However, the most important bird of the state is actually in the seal of Louisiana and the state bird, the brown pelican. In fact, that's where Louisiana's nickname came from, the Pelican State. In fact, the Pelican's so well known that its basketball team's even named the Pelican after its state bird. But also shorebirds like the great white egret, heron, and more are found here in the state. There's lots of amphibian and fish species here too. But of course, Louisiana is also plagued with invasive species, most well-known and infamously the nutria. It was brought in the 30s from Argentina, and they're absolutely terrible. They destroy the marshes and wetlands. They're notorious for it. Also, monk parakeets are now pretty bad because there are about over 60,000 of them reported, and they've now been all over Louisiana as well. But they're only limited to New Orleans. And red fire ants. So yeah, that is Louisiana's. And the climate is pretty humid subtropical with long humid summers and short mild winters. The subtropical characteristics of the state are due to its low latitude, low line topography, and the Gulf of Mexico. Summers in southern Louisiana have high temperatures from June through September, around 90 degrees Fahrenheit and more, and lows of 70. At times, the temperatures in the 90s combined with dew points make it sensible temperatures over 120 degrees. Yes, because this gets very humid very quickly. And of course, Louisiana is very affected by tropical cyclones for obvious reasons. Surprisingly, rain is also a big deal, especially in New Orleans. Fun fact, New Orleans is actually technically more rainy than Seattle is. It actually gets more rain per year than Seattle. Oh, yes. That covers about Louisiana's geography. Hey, Quartz, good to see you. I hope you're doing a good time, my dude. Or a fully detailed Aero Mexico. Ah, cool. Yeah, Mexico's a beautiful. It's a. I know Mexico's got affected by the cartels, but Mexico is such a colorful place to visit. I visited Mexico multiple times actually. I visited 2 places in the East Coast of Mexico and 3 along the Pacific coast. I do like to check out some more of the other cities and stuff, but I mean Mexico's pretty cool. I'm really can't wait to visit here as well. Thank you for giving the shout out, Typhon. So we're in Louisiana today, Court. We're flying the pits in Louisiana, so we'll be checking out the beautiful state of Louisiana, really cool area. Like I said, unlike many of the other U.S. states, Louisiana was by the French. French sees a lot of Louisiana. So of course we're going to be visiting out, but I'm doing very, very well. Very, very well. So we're going to be visiting Alexandria, Louisiana. That's our first stop is going to be at Alexandria International Airport. But I'm going to cover a bit about Alexandria, Louisiana. It's the 9th largest city in Louisiana, the parish seat and largest city of the Rapides Parish, located in the south bank of the Red River. It's the principal city of its metro area, population of 153,000. This area really grew as a trading outpost, especially for those symbols of traders, the Caddo people, and merchants of agricultural lands. Provide a link from the south to the El Camino Real, Old San Antonio Road, and then the largest settlement of Natchez, oldest settlement. It was also the scene of the Lee Street riot in 1942 of racial violence between civilians and military police. Well, of course, there's some points of interest, like several parks, including its own zoo. It's Alexandria Zoological Park. Has about 500 animals. There's a recreation area, national forest, and of course, several homes and plantations around the area too. Pretty cool stuff. And then our first stop is going to be Alexandria International Airport, Kilo Alpha Echo X-Ray, KEX. This is owned by the England Authority. Although commercial flight operations are not conducted, charter flights for U.S. military destinations are routinely conducted to this airfield, including those of overseas troops. It was actually originally known as England Air Force Base. It was opened during World War II and was used during the Cold War, originally used for bombing with bomber and fire air crew, but now was used during the Cold War, but mainly for the Cold War stuff. But yeah, it does have airline service to Dallas and Atlanta. It's only 2 destinations. Not really much going on. We're going to go ahead and power off the plane, and we're going to land on runway 18. And it's because we're going to actually land runway 14. That's because 14 has the longest runway. Remember, this thing does not have flaps, by the way. This is a Pitts aerobatic plane. There are no flaps in this. I have to be really careful, but they do it to bleed up. And you know, I guess I could also reduce the RP. Here's the propeller high RP. Head and reduce the RPM on this thing. That way, reduce the RPM, make this a little easier to land. This is going to be a very interesting landing spot for sure. Here we go. Negative 20 FPM. Holy crap, that is a very smooth. So we'll stop here for the first leg of the trip. Of course, it's hard to fully stop in the plane. So this is Alexandria Airport. So for a brief bit about what's going on in the world, for me at least. So Louisville basketball unfortunately lost last night in the ACC championship. Duke beat us. That was a close game. It was close. Like they kept the Cards were leading the first half, but it was close. But unfortunately, the Cards couldn't win their first ACC tournament championship. But man, it's still a great season though to make it to the ACC finals in the first year of Pat Kelsey. What a year! They're definitely going to get a tournament bid. Question is, what seed are they going to be in? That's really my question for the brackets. But man, what a year for Louisville basketball! And an unbelievable for Cardinals basketball. So it's projected the Cardinals are going to make Louisville's going to be making they're going to beat a 6 seed. So that's going to be a pretty interesting thing. 6 seed Cardinals got a good shot. I mean, Louisville can definitely challenge. That bracket looks pretty good for Louisville basketball. They could definitely be either Vanderbilt or Chicago State. Wisconsin's not too bad. Tennessee's going to be a real pain, and so is Houston. That's going to be tough. But they got a pretty good favorable bracket, it looks like, for the Cardinals. Oh, pretty cool stuff. Let's go ahead and prepare for the second leg, and we'll get back to the air. Outside of Louisville basketball, of course, I got to watch the Premier League yesterday. The Toffees Everton for English football. The Toffees have managed to keep the unbeaten streak up to 9 now. And of course, the hard part is I have to wait all the way April 2nd for the next Premier League matchup against. It has to be freaking Liverpool, of course. Those Reds. Right now, Arsenal's beating Chelsea. Hope Fulham wins against Tottenham, and Leicester and Manchester United are on today. Got to cheer on for the Toffees. NBA's also been going on as well. For the NBA, I knew I know right now the Pacers just lost the game, but they're still well within the playoffs. The Cavaliers have ripped off 16 wins in a row. Cleveland is looking unbelievable this season. Why do they win a championship this year? Is another question, but they're definitely the best team in the East. I mean, the Celtics are the next best team, but they're still quite a bit behind. Of course, the West is all dominant. Oklahoma City, Houston's played extremely well. The Nuggets are still contenders. The Grizzlies, Lakers, Warriors, Wolves. The Wolves are right high at the right time, and the Clippers probably take the ace seed. Pretty interesting stuff for the NBA this year. And then finally for the NHL, I don't really follow the NHL nearly that much, but the Panthers look like to be the best team in the Atlantic, followed by Tampa. Toronto's looking pretty solid this year too. For Toronto, the Maple Leafs, and then the Senators have won 6 straight games for the Ottawa Senators. The Metropolitan Division looks like to be an unbelievable year for the Capitals. Alex Ovechkin is leading the Capitals to the best record in the East. One of the best records in the East. Carolina's won 7 straight. The Devils are pretty good, and so are the Rangers, but don't count out the Blue Jackets, the Metro Division. And finally, from the West, Winnipeg is looking unbelievable this year. They could be one of the favorites to win the Stanley Cup. Dallas is doing well, so is Colorado, and then you have the Wild. Central Division in the West, the Predators aren't doing so well. In the Pacific Division, Vegas leads that division, but the Kings and Oilers aren't too far behind. Then you have the Canucks and Flames out in the Western Conference. This is Alexandria. So we're going to head down this direction. So we're going to follow this for 68 nautical miles. We're going to head down to Lafayette. Our next. So I hope you guys are enjoying this stream and enjoying the content here on the channel. Stream 3 days a week on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays here on Twitch. So we'll continue on this direction. I know FS Weekend was here this weekend. I know the guy, founder of Honeycomb, also is now doing he's founded a new company with some new rebirth. So Got Friends has a new freeware, which is based on the old panel. They brought that back. I might be interested in that since that's a lot easier to work with. That's pretty nice. Oh yeah, the development stream happened when on Friday, the dev stream. So Keepler is bringing their F4 Phantom into the sim, which is really cool. I didn't expect the F4 Phantom to come in. It's really interesting. The Make Good aircraft is going to be expected in May. Of course, Typhon mentioned it on Friday, the Embraer Praetor, working title in Zobo, which is cool. We're going to see some more Embraer planes. It's going to be nice. And new future upgrades, of course. He's actually going to do discussions for Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina, and other regions as well, which is going to be pretty cool, considering, I mean, so far the World Update stuff looks pretty amazing. I was flying over Sao Paulo last night, and it looks crazy in the sim. Sao Paulo is absolutely huge. It is absolutely massive. Sao Paulo, enormous. Of course, Sim Update 2 is coming along very soon for beta testing, and then Sim Update 3 and 4 are fixing on bug fixes and improvements. So that's what they're working on. They're adding some new stuff for the marketplace, of course. They're adding some new features. Weight turbulence in Sim Update 2. Controller Sims overhauls, LED texture fixes, heavy cargo mission are now going to be on the career mode, AI powered assistant, and aircraft maintenance system. That's going to be some of the stuff fixes that's going to be coming in the future. They're addressing VRAM concerns. Sim Update 2's got it, and then they also got some scenery enhancement. The new city update is coming out for the United States soon in April. And it's going to cover Dallas, Fort Worth, Denver, Honolulu, and San Francisco. Which is great because guess what? Dallas needed photogrammetry and so did Honolulu. Those two cities definitely needed photogrammetry. Especially Dallas, because Dallas is one of the country's largest cities. And it definitely needed photogramming. So that is definitely one I'm very happy with, and it's going to be by the time we get to do the 50 states, 50 streams in Texas. It'll be there just in time for that, because our 50 states, 50 streams in Texas doesn't happen until part 3, and the last part 3, which will be in April. So yeah, I don't think we really have to worry too much longer for the 50 states and 50 streams in Texas. We also have Countryside 10 expansion with those for U.S. national parks, which is amazing. We got the whole national park stream, so this is perfect. Scotland and more, perfect. We're doing a whole national park series coming up, so that's huge. That's amazing news. Makes me quite happy. Sea traffic render distance, rolling cache fixes, and light exposure improvements. And then long term, they're bringing back the World Hub, improved submission moderation system, expanded AI liveries, multiplayer liveries, career mode expansion, and helipad and airport fixes is going to be in the future. So definitely sounds pretty interesting, if you ask me. Oh yeah, the update 10, of course. Yeah, they're going to come out 2026, 27, but this is actually pretty exciting, though. Like I said, more South America stuff is definitely pretty nice. And like I said, I know a lot of people really like Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, and Brasilia. Man, just imagine some of these other cities, like for example, Montevideo. That would look sick. Buenos Aires would look amazing. Buenos Aires could look amazing in the sim. Or Santiago would be cool. Yeah, so many cool cities that could finally get some update. The only city that I wish they would have done for the C Update 10 is Charlotte. That's the last major city that definitely needs some photogrammetry love, is Charlotte, North Carolina. Why Charlotte? Never got it, but it is what it is. We'll talk a little bit about the economy of Louisiana for a bit. So, of course, Louisiana's economy. Its population, agricultural products, abundance of oil and natural gas, and southern Louisiana's medical tech have contributed to Louisiana's growing and diversified economy. In 2014, it was one of the most small business-friendly states because of a lot of business owners. Agriculturally, Louisiana, its main products include seafood, which is the biggest producer of crawfish in the world, which is 9% of it. Cotton, soybeans, cattle, sugarcane, poultry, eggs, dairy, and rice are all the agricultural outputs of Louisiana. Among its energy and other industries, chemical products, petroleum, and more have contributed to a part of its GSP, its gross spending power. Tourism and gaming are also important elements of its economy, especially in the New Orleans region. The port of South Louisiana is actually, at one point, was the largest shipping port in the Western Hemisphere and 4th in the world back in 2024. Nowadays, it's still continuing to be the busiest port by tonnage in the U.S. through 2018, as well as being one of the busiest ports in the world. And I mean, it makes sense considering Louisiana is a shipping point for so much of it, because from the Mississippi, you can reach places such as Baton Rouge, Memphis, St. Louis, and Minneapolis are all on the Mississippi River. And even then, you also have the Ohio rivers and stuff. And then from the Mississippi, if you go east, you go through the Ohio River. And guess what? When you go through the Ohio River, guess what? You could reach places like Evansville, Louisville, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh. All major communities that rely on the Mississippi, on the Ohio River, go through there. That's why Louisiana is such an important port. Of course, there's also thriving film industries in New Orleans, Shreveport, and Baton Rouge. So it's known as Hollywood South. And of course, Louisiana is a very popular area for reality TV programming, second only to Alaska. Its GDP is $253 billion, which is 26th highest in the United States, and its GSP is greater than the GDPs of Greece, grew in New Zealand. Yes, despite this being one of the poor states, ironically, its GDP is actually more than those countries, which has similar or even higher development. So yeah, definitely something a lot of you guys probably weren't even expecting. Even I wasn't expecting that. Oh, there's Alec D. Hello, Alec D. Good to see you, my dude. Welcome on in. Yeah, we're here in beautiful Louisiana here today. Really cool state. Of course, a big part about Louisiana that I think needs to be discussed, though, if it's one thing Louisiana is definitely its strongest suit, is without question its culture. Because there's no question, if you think one thing about Louisiana that it's the strongest suit, it has to be culture. Louisiana may just be one of the most culturally colorful states in the country because of its unique Creole, Cajun, African, and Mobile cultures into a melting pot of so many unique cultures that make Louisiana a very rich and historic area for culture. It involves a lot of the music, religion, clothing, language, architecture, arts, games, and sports. Of course, often these are the basis for many festivals in the state, while having many similarities to its neighbors in the Gulf Coast like Texas and Mississippi. However, Louisiana is really unique due to its unique Louisiana French culture, historical waves of French-speaking settlers, as well as African American culture, creates one of a kind thing here in beautiful Louisiana. Um, of course, we have to talk about music, of course, because music is a massive deal here in the beautiful state of Louisiana. Has gotta be its music. Of course, the music here in the state can be divided into three regions: the rural South, home to the Creole, Zydeco, and Old French music; New Orleans, and North Louisiana. Region around New Orleans region has unique heritage thanks to the Dixieland jazz, Afro-Caribbean rhythms, all create a unique sense of music here in the state. Of course, the northern portion has got a lot of those similar to the south. Of course, New Orleans is probably the epicenter for its most famous music style to originate in New Orleans, and that is none other than jazz. Jazz is what really grew New Orleans' music scene back in the day. And it came around 1900, with many people, and say the most important figure was Papa Jack Lane, who built his unique Dixieland Jazz Band, which grew to be very popular among the African American population. Of course, it was originally a Pan-Alley music throughout the 20s, but of course, however, contemporary jazz in New Orleans have grown even more. Of course, it also has a rich blues scene too, with R&B and gospel and more, like Mahalia Jackson. Of course, nowadays it's more into modern music. Like Britney Spears nowadays was actually from around Louisiana, as well as other bands and rock artists as well. Then the southern region has a lot more traditional Creole, Cajun, Zydeco, and other music, and then North Louisiana is similar to that of the other parts of the state. But yeah, jazz is what really grew New Orleans to. It basically, jazz is like blues, ragtime, harmonies, spirits, and more to create. Of course, the artist you see here is none other than Louis Armstrong, maybe the most famous jazz artist of New Orleans. I mean, no one inspired more jazz in there than Louis Armstrong himself as the jazz of the state. Of course, there's also an extremely rich cuisine. If it's one thing that rivals its rich music history, it's got to be the food, because it's unique for both Cajun, Creole, and Native American cuisine. Creole cuisine is influenced by traditional French cooking with Spanish, African, and influence. Cajun cuisine, one of the most popular regional cuisines in the country, and of course, people in southern Louisiana mention they said, to live, well, they live to eat, of course, is what they say. While most of the food is traditionally Cajun and Creole food of South Louisiana, North Louisiana has something unique with southern style soul food like smothered pork chops, chicken and dumplings, candied yams, North hot water cornbread, fried chicken, and more. Natchez is known for its meat pies, which is one of the state foods of Louisiana. Of course, for many years, crawfish were not eaten outside of the Cajun County and all of that. Of course, other foods popular here in the States include gumbo, etouffee, which is shellfish over rice, jambalaya. Jambalaya is one of the dishes. It's meat, seafood, and vegetables mixed with rice and spices. Raw for West African and Spanish influences. Muffalata, brown sesame bread sandwich in New Orleans. Of course, the classic po' boy, which is traditional roast beef, ham, or fried seafood on top of the New Orleans style French bread, and red beans and rice, a historic staple of Creole cuisine. Seafood's also extremely popular as an ingredient or even a dish like shrimp, crawfish, crabs, oysters, and catfish. While swamp deserts actually also use other types of meat, including gator, frog legs, and turtle soup. And to finally top it off for all you sweet tooths out there, is all the desserts. King cake, which is actually served a lot more during the Mardi Gras season. Beignets, the classic deep fried pastry, which I had before. The beignets are absolutely delicious. Pralines, sweet potato pie, and pecan pie are popular desserts and stuff in Louisiana. In terms of it as well, and finally, of course, there's one more thing that sets Louisiana apart, and it's got to be the festival. However, if you got to pick one major festival a lot of people know Louisiana for, it's got to be Mardi Gras, which it debuts in medieval Europe, and it traveled to the French House of the Bourbons during the 17th, 18th centuries through Rome and Venice. From this point, France's custom was spread throughout her colonies. But of course, it was most notable for being in New Orleans, as it was publicly observed during the 1730s. But it really grew more during the 40s. Finally, of course, a lot of it was spread in 1781. Of course, there's also other festivals here in the States, including the JC's, which was featured in the Ponchatoula town. It was the Strawberry Festival as well as one of the other ones. But Mardi Gras, what really grew in this state. Finally, of course, we have to talk about a bit about the sports here in Louisiana. Now, of course, sports are very popular in the States, particularly American football is the most popular sports, because they have both have both professional and collegiate football. Of course, it's also recreational sports are also popular here too, fishing and hunting, and as a result, it's called a sportsman's paradise. Of course, due to professional teams, it's actually the least populous state to have professional sports of all U.S. states. Yes, it is. Actually, it's the least populous state with more than one sports franchise, and that is they're both in New Orleans. The Pelicans of the NBA and the state's more beloved team, NFL's New Orleans Saints. are beloved here in the city. Of course, there's 12 collegiate programs here in the state, which is actually pretty high considering its low population of 4 million. Of course, the pride and joy of all Louisiana college sports is Louisiana State University in Baton Rouge, which we will be covering when we visit there. And they've actually won 12 SEC football. Its football program won 12 SEC conference titles, 6 Sugar Bowls, and 4 national championships. They've had many iconic football players. They also have the Bite Classic and New Orleans Bowls in New Orleans, as well as Shreveport hosting its own bowl game. And finally, no other cities, of course, Louisiana is most defined with the Super Bowl. In fact, it's hosted more Super Bowls. This state hosted more Super Bowls than any other state, with New Orleans hosting the Super Bowl 11 times, more than any other city. It's hosted a BCS National Championship game, All-Star game, and an NCAA Division I basketball championship. All of them are held in New Orleans, which is pretty crazy to think about. Finally, of course, Louisiana is the birthplace of more NFL players per capita than any other state in the country. So yeah, Louisiana is a sports-rich city. Tons of sports stuff. How cool was that? How cool was that? Yeah, I'm running low on the main tank. We're gonna stop. We're gonna go ahead and visit Lafayette for a bit. So I went ahead and switched tanks. We'll visit Lafayette, Louisiana, and then we'll turn left to check out Baton Rouge. But yeah, I'm actually having a pretty fun time playing this pits. I'm not gonna do too much aerobatics, but we will be doing some pretty fun stuff. Oh, look, Fulham's going to beat Tottenham. Yeah. Let's go, Fulham. Fulham's going to beat Tottenham. Fulham's going to beat Spurs. Oh, that's going to be pretty cool. That's a good one for us. That's a win. Because that means Tottenham won't pass Everton. So that means next time they meet, Everton wins and they at least draw, we would be ahead of them. We can go. Of course, the next one won't be until April 1st. That'll be the next set of matches. All throughout April. So we're going to visit Lafayette, Louisiana here. So Lafayette will be our next waypoint. So Lafayette was historically a huge city. This city is actually Louisiana's fourth most populous city with 121,000 people. But this city is the heart of the Acadiana region. and it contains the largest population economic corridor between Houston and New Orleans. It was originally established as Vermilionville in the 1820s, and it developed as an agricultural community until the introduction of retail and entertainment centers, as well as oil in the 1940s. As a result, it's had the highest number of oil and natural gas industry workers in Louisiana. It also has the University of Louisiana System Lafayette campus. As a result, it's known as the Hub City, being the hub in this area, as well as the heart of Acadiana. As a result, the city's growth became more for tech and other industries here, as well as healthcare, aerospace, banking, and retail. Make their home here, as well as its diverse population of Creole and Cajun background. So, there's also a lot of cultural and regional icons like the Alexandra Moulton House, the Brant House, Charles H. Moulton House, Old Lafayette City Hall, Remington College, and more, making it a pretty major center for the state. And the city itself was named after Marquis de Lafayette, was a French nobleman who actually volunteered for the colonial army, for the Continental Army of the United States Revolution. But yeah, there's a lot of really unique culture and heritage stuff here. Of course, there's also the Vermilionville Historic Village, which is a living history museum. It talks about Creole and Cajun life here in the area. Pretty cool. So, Lafayette, definitely a cool city and a lot of rich histories. Fly over. Yeah. Of course, the issue with this point is you don't get a lot of frontward visibility, but downtown Lafayette. Its most notable thing for sports has got to be University of Louisiana Lafayette, or simply known as University of Louisiana. Here's downtown Lafayette. We're going to turn west, make our way over to Baton Rouge. I do like flying this beast of an aerobat. So Baton Rouge is now, which is the state capital of Louisiana, by the way, if you guys want to know. Let's start with the last sort of stuff here for Louisiana. The last state coverage slide has got to be its transportation. Louisiana, it's a lot of the transportation is operated by the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, which targets a lot of its transportations, bridges, canals, as well as its 69 airports. Believe it or not, unfortunately, Louisiana is 5th in the country in 2022 for fatal crashes with a rate of 19 deaths per 100,000 people. Ew. Not safe at all. There are 6 freight railroads that operate here. NSF, Canadian National, EPKC, Canadian Pacific Kansas State Limited, CSX, Norfolk Southern, and Union Pacific Railroads operate. Amtrak, the passenger railroad, operates 3 long-distance routes to the state, and they all originate from the New Orleans passenger terminal. The Crescent serves Slidell and runs through to New York via Birmingham, Atlanta, Charlotte, and DC. The city of New Orleans stops at Hammond before going to Chicago, and Sunset Limited serves the route west to Los Angeles via Houston, San Antonio, El Paso, and Tucson. Before Katrina, it went even as far east as Orlando, Florida, though Katrina ruined that. Of course, during airports, by far the busiest airport in the States is Louis Armstrong, New Orleans. It is also, believe it or not, the second lowest lying international airport in the world, 4 feet above sea level. The only one probably lower is Schiphol. Schiphol in the Netherlands, and then Itar International, Kazakhstan, which is 72 feet below sea level. Yes, this is a very low airport. That being said, New Orleans in 2023 served 12 million people, which is a lot of people. Flies through, and New Orleans International flies through a lot of destinations, both domestically and yes, even international flights to Toronto, London. Toronto and London are the two big ones that fly international. Also, Cancun's another destination. Well, it does fly through some of it out of Guam, but most of it is there as well. There's other primary airports in the States, and of course, the waterways are also the most important ones for a lot of products, especially along the Mississippi River. So that wraps up the transportation sector here in Louisiana. A lot of this is the delta and the bayou plains and the swamps. Louisiana. Some of the tours here in the state, you can take, of course, in New Orleans, a lot of steamboats and stuff. Oak Valley Plantation, do that. You can take airboat rides to the bayou and the swamp. Of course, New Orleans also serve ghost and haunted stuff because of the voodoo heritage. Lots of really cool, unique things. Yeah, New Orleans is definitely a cool city with a history. We're getting pretty close to Baton Rouge. Don't have that much far left to go. Let's see our fuel tank, see how... I think we have enough fuel for the rest of the trip. Don't have that much far. we're going to be coming out to visit, we're going to be heading to Baton Rouge for a bit. So Baton Rouge is the capital of Louisiana and the second largest city in the state, after New Orleans. Baton Rouge is a population of around 227,000. Its metro area is around 870,000. Of course, Baton Rouge owes its importance to a strategic site in the Istronomma Bluff, the first natural bluff upriver from the Mississippi Delta. It allows the development of business safe from seasonal flooding, and it's been a culturally rich center with immigrants from both European nations and African peoples. Built Baton Rouge into become a major area. In fact, it was ruled by 7 different nations: the French, Spanish, the British, briefly the Republic of West Florida, U.S., Confederates, and once again the U.S. It's the end of the Civil War. It's the major industrial, petrochemical, medical, research, motion picture, and technology center of the southern United States. Is one of the bigger ones. It's this location of Louisiana State University. Is a big deal here. The state's largest institution of education and the flagship, as well as Southern University as well. The nation's only historically black college system. It's also one of the largest ports in the United States at the port of Baton Rouge, and it's the farthest upstream Mississippi port capable to handle the Panamax ships. Major corporations in the area include Amazon, BBQ Guys, Marucci Sports, Piccadilly Restaurants, Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, Exxon Mobil, Brown Root, and Shell. Of course, one of the really cool things about Baton Rouge is definitely something pretty interesting to cover. One of the more interesting things about Baton Rouge is its unique culture and arts, especially with its Cajun Creole Catholic culture, and Acadiana is standardized with African American towns. Of course, it's a big college town, LSU being the big one. Of course, the big part about Baton Rouge is tourism. From its unique neo-Gothic capital to the brand new Art Deco new capital. Creates some really unique areas. You also have the Magnolia Mound Plantation House, Myrtle's Plantation, and Nottoway Plantation to show the antebellum era architecture. Of course, you also have the USS Kidd, which was a destroyer, and named after Rear Admiral Isaac C. Kidd, who died on the bridge of the USS Arizona. Lots of museums and stuff, and more. Of course, sports play a big deal in Baton Rouge, mainly with collegiate sports. The LSU Tigers football program being the most prestigious in the city. And speaking about LSU Tigers, LSU is the big talk of the town, rightfully so. And they started playing college football in 1893, pretty old, and they're one of the most successful college football programs in the country. 24 national championships, 16 conference titles, and 39 All-Americans, including 3 Heisman Trophy winners. Well, and of course, they're well known for their purple and yellow uniforms, making them pretty unique, because they're purple and gold. And they have some rich traditions, including at Tiger Stadium, the pregame show, its tailgate scene is legendary among college football fans, is the tailgating. It's considered to be the best tailgating location in the country. And also, in addition to this, its night games are stuff of legend at the football program. They might have the most toughest atmosphere in college football, especially at night. And it's become an LSU tradition, and it's become universally well known, especially that as well. They also Of course, it also has many different cheers, most notably, tigers and all that. And of course, more importantly, too, of course, it also has many other rivalries too. Most notably, the Alabama rivalry was a huge deal back. Alabama is a big deal, especially during the Nick Saban era, which was once LSU's former coach. But also Arkansas is another rival. It's Arkansas. Arkansas is another rival. They're pretty much up north. Auburn, Florida, Mississippi State, and Ole Miss are a big part. And LSU's traditional rival, Ole Miss. In recent years, Texas A&M has been more of that. Historically, was its oldest rival, Tulane. But pretty cool stuff. And speaking of it as well, we'll also be on the waypoint to Tiger Stadium, the 6th largest on-campus stadium in the NCAA, and the 9th largest stadium in the world is actually here in Baton Rouge. Yes, it's a massive football facility here in Baton Rouge. 102,000 people watch LSU football, and it all not bad for a stadium that originally opened with 12,000 people, which is massive. It is an enormous facility for college sports. Its record attendance back in the old days was actually in Florida, against Florida in 2023 with 102,000 people. Absolutely huge, and it is a very, very loud facility. It is notoriously known for its loud, especially during Saturday night games. It gets very noisy, very loud, very noisy, and very tough to play. No one likes play. That's why they call it Death Valley. It is absolutely brutal. It is the best atmosphere. It can't go wrong with the LSU football. And combine that with its massive stadium capacity, it's no wonder it's such a tough place to play. Really cool stuff. And at one point during Hurricane Katrina, the Saints even played a few games here. Super cool stuff here in Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge is actually further south this way. I need to get back to the ring. Here it is, guys. Here's Baton Rouge. We'll fly over Tiger Stadium for a bit. Yes, LSU football, big tradition here. It is an institution here in the States. And finally, for our next stop, second stop of the day, will be Baton Rouge Metropolitan. This is Louisiana's second busiest airport. Originally known as Hardy Field during World War II, and used as a technical service command maintenance base. It was used to train a lot of P-47 pilots. And in fact, one of those pilots trained here actually appeared in Ken Burns' The War PBS film, as well as all the stuff. Nowadays, it's mainly a commercial airport with destinations to several hub airports like Charlotte, Dallas, Washington, Atlanta, and well, it's also used for the LSU teams to fly in and out of. That is Baton Rouge Metro Airport. Let's downtown. We'll fly back here. We're just gonna go fly back down the river. Then we'll make our way over to. So yes, if you look to our left, you'll actually see a lot of oil processing facilities. That's because Baton Rouge has got one of the larger one of those in the country. Take a look at that. That's because this here is energy power stations and stuff from multiple companies like Exxon and all. Because like I said, this is a very busy dock and a lot of ships make their way up here. Especially the larger Panamax ships along the Mississippi. They actually go here. Look at the size of this. This nuts. Crazy, look at it. Here's downtown Baton Rouge. Here's downtown. So here is the state capitol to our left. Here's, guys, this building up here is Louisiana State Capitol. There it is. The unique new deco look. Finally, of course, we're going to go ahead and here's G's on this thing. Because I can. We're going to fly over to Tiger Stadium and go the right direction. So we'll just do that and circle on back the way we came. Got some pictures of Baton Rouge, of course. Here it is, guys. The crown jewel of sports here in Louisiana. One of the crown jewels here. Tiger Stadium, home of LSU. Go Tiger. They say here in Baton Rouge. Careful not to crash into the campus. Not be good. Yeah, look at the massive facility in this place. I think they were doing some upgrades here, but yeah, this is Tiger Stadium. Absolutely huge place. Imagine this to watch an American football game. The environment is absolutely insane for LSU football. And trust me, there are many great atmospheres in college football, including Ohio's Horseshoe. You have the Swamp in Florida, in Gainesville, Athens in Georgia, the Hedges, Tennessee's Nayland, even the 12th man in College Station. But if you ask me what the best atmosphere in the SEC is, it's probably LSU. Absolutely insane place to watch an American football game. Can't think of anywhere even remotely as crazy. Of course, guys, we'll be making our second stop here. We'll land at runway 04 left. And again, this is the longest runway, and I need all the runway space I can with a plane with no flaps. So we'll land here. We'll take a bit of a rest, and then prepare for the leg to New Orleans, Louisiana. Final stop. Once again, look at this size industrial stuff. But if you thought that's big, get to the Houston area. And here we go, our second stop in Baton Rouge. Just see here. Here. And we'll park here for just a little bit. So that is Baton Rouge. This is our second stop of 3 on this stream. We'll be covering it. But yes, we got 2 more legs left to cover here. We have 2 more legs to cover here. We have 2 more legs here to cover. We have 1 more leg left, and that is to New Orleans, everyone. NOLA, baby. So we got 1 last leg left. We'll stop here for just a little bit. We'll get everyone a bit of drink and stuff. Back up in here shortly. But yes, it's going to be beautiful New Orleans. I've been to New Orleans, actually. Pretty cool city. So we'll get prepared to get there pretty shortly, and we'll wrap up the stream afterward. Stay tight, guys. Hey, good to see you there, Alec D. So let's go ahead and prepare for the final leg of today. We're heading to New Orleans. So I'm going to go ahead and refuel this plane. Fly back to New Orleans. And we're up. We're back in the sky, boys. Do this. Alright, guys, we'll blast our way to New Orleans, Louisiana. New Orleans. Yeah, a lot of people here, guys. 7 people, guys. Tuning in. This has been fantastic, guys. I hope you're enjoying this, guys. You know, I'm having a lot of fun here today in beautiful New Orleans. Beautiful Louisiana, really cool state. Let's cover our fun facts about Louisiana, the Bayou State. One of the big things in Louisiana, the Pelican State, is home to the largest water bridge in the world, the Lake Hunt Chartrain Causeway, which is around 24 miles long. And I've actually been on that bridge. Dude, it's absolutely enormous. I've been around this bridge, but it's an absolutely enormous bridge. 24-mile long bridge. Yeah, 24 miles, which is absolutely insane. 1718, the French founded New Orleans and marked Tons Brûlés on the maps upriver in the area known as the city of Kenner. French for burnt canes. It was the name given by explorers who observed the natives burning cane to drive out wild game. Which again, what brûlé means, burnt cane. Breaux Bridge is known as the crawfish capital of the world because crawfish is a big part of Cajun cuisine. Louisiana is the biggest crawfish producer in the world. About 9% of all crawfish that has been produced comes from Louisiana. And its first territorial governor, William C. Claiborne, had great admiration for the awkward bird, known as, you guessed it, the pelican. And apparently the pelican, rather than as Stark, would tear its own flesh to feed them. Great respect for them led him to use the pelican symbol on all official documents, which, if you guys all know, eventually led to Louisiana's nickname, the Pelican State. Pretty crazy enough. Yeah, pelicans are a big deal, and there's many species of pelicans. But the one here is the brown pelican. That is Louisiana's bird. They often eat fish, mainly menhaden and anchovies. But sometimes they can eat fish like herring, mullet, sardines, minnows, and more. But surprisingly, they can eat non-fish prey, from crustaceans, amphibians, and even eggs and nestlings of other birds. Yeah, it's crazy that sounds. They actually eat other stuff too. So, pretty interesting stuff about the pelicans. And of course, Louisiana's home to some very famous people. Of course, Louis Armstrong has to be mentioned, probably the most famous jazz artist from New Orleans. You have Jeffrey Bean, well-known fashion designer from Haynesville. Truman Capote, writer from New Orleans. Kitty Carlisle, singer and actress from New Orleans. Another famous musician, Fats Domino from New Orleans, another famous jazz artist. Louis Moreau Gottschalk, pianist and composer from New Orleans. Huey P. Long, the infamous governor of Louisiana from Winfield. Huey Newton Black from New Orleans. Delroy Morton, jazz musician from New Orleans. But yeah, a lot of people from New Orleans. Same for the league. And if you ask me why New Orleans, it makes sense. It was the big. of head our way up to here, but there's definitely some really cool stuff here in. Of course, we're following this for another 58 nautical miles. Our first waypoint is not going to be much longer. Just 58 nautical miles from our final stop in New Orleans. So, getting down there pretty closer. So, we're going to talk a little bit about the historic city of New Orleans, everyone. Our final destination here. New Orleans, Louisiana. The historic Louisiana city itself. What makes New Orleans such a historic destination, you may? Well, you see, New Orleans is the largest city in the state, 383,000 people, and it is the most populous city in Louisiana, in French Louisiana, and the second most populous city in the Deep South. The only city larger is probably of the Deep South. Its largest is Atlanta, of course, which dwarfs, especially in its metro area, dwarfs New Orleans. It's also as a major economic commercial center of the Gulf Coast. But of course, if you ask me why New Orleans is famous, it has to be the culture. It's world-renowned for its music, cuisine, dialects, and celebrations and festivals, mostly the Mardi Gras. And I visited this city in the historic heart is without question the French Quarter. Known for its French and Creole style architecture and vibrant nightlife along Bourbon Street. And it's among the most unique cities in the United States due to its cross-cultural multilingual heritage, as well as its role for Hollywood and film industry, known as Hollywood South. It was founded in 1718 by French colonists. New Orleans was once the territorial capital of French Louisiana before being part of the U.S. in 1803. In 1840, New Orleans was actually the third most populous city in the United States, and it was the largest city in the South from the antebellum era until after World War II. However, historically, it's been vulnerable to flooding due to its high rainfall, low elevation, poor natural drainage, and proximity to multiple bodies of water. So, they installed a system of levees and drainage to protect it. New Orleans was severely affected by Hurricane Katrina in 2005, which flooded 80% of the city. It caused a population decline of over 50%. Though since Katrina, there's a lot of redevelopment efforts to rebound the population, though they were concerned about gentrification, new residents, displacement of long-time residents, as well as violent crime being a massive issue still, as it has some of the highest per capita homicide rates in the country. So yeah, lots and lots of issues with New Orleans going into this. However, if you ask me, New Orleans, tourism is probably the biggest staple of New Orleans economy. A lot of tourists come to visit here because of its unique cultural heritage. And of course, the French Quarters, St. Charles Avenue, Magazine Street, and stuff. And as a result, New Orleans is one of the top 10 most visited cities in the country. Over 10 million visitors came in 2004. And it's one of America's favorite cities to visit, especially for spring break destinations and wild weekends. Especially with its music scene, hotels, bars, cafes, restaurants. Of course, the French Quarter is well known for its stuff. And I've been to the French Market. I've been to Café du Monde for its café à latte with coffee with milk and beignets. They're extremely good. I actually had their coffee here. Absolutely delicious. Like, coffee with milk? Yum. Actually, I don't like coffee usually, but I love the coffee there. There's tons of really cool museums and stuff. I got to visit the historic World War II museum, and I got to visit there. An amazing military museum. If you're ever in New Orleans, want to check out military history, the National World War II Museum is an amazing resource. It's actually a Smithsonian Institute affiliate museum, and it's really cool. A great museum with tons of unique artifacts, exhibits. Great museum. Fantastic. I I highly recommend checking that out. There's lots of nature institutes, insectarium, house and gardens. And of course, there's also lots of plantations and stuff too, as well. And of course, you can visit its historic cemeteries. Tons of place for tourists to flock to. Finally, of course, it's entertainment with jazz, famous carnival, Mardi Gras, world famous here as well. Jazz God's home in New Orleans with Louis Armstrong, Louis Prima, Frank Ocean, and our star. And of course, you gotta forget about its cuisine. It's world famous here. You gotta check out the local specialties like beignets, po' boys, buffaletta, bull crawfish, gumbo, and red beans and rice. A lot of cool stuff. New Orleans is really colorful to visit. If you can avoid crime, that is. That's the only negative part of New Orleans is the crime. If you're willing to look past it, New Orleans is one of a kind city in the country. There are not many like New Orleans anywhere. And finally, for our final stop of the day, where we come up soon, is Lakefront Airport. Kilo November Echo Whiskey is now. Lakefront Airport is the general aviation airport of New Orleans. It used to be the main airline airport until 1946 when the new built Armstrong Airport was built. But still, it's a very popular GA airport with charter, private, and occasional military service here. Well known for its lavish 1930 decoration and Art Deco exterior. It was actually damaged by Hurricane Katrina, though it has been restored. A lot of this area is restored. However, the Art Deco building that was used here was actually featured as the headquarters of Ferris Aircraft in the 2011 film Green Lantern, which starred Ryan Reynolds, which was kind of infamous. But since 2014, it's now hosted the World War II Paris Sea Land Festival, which is now currently in service. Oh, hey, we have a follow from a Musty Cat. Thank you so much for following, my dude. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're enjoying the stream. Beautiful area here in New Orleans with lots of reenactments, full displays. Yeah, tons of stuff this airport was. It was also the site of an accident in 1981 when manufacturer Joyce Hornady was killed in a Piper Aztec. When it crashed, controls fly and it crashed into the lake on approach. Of course, it was featured also in pop culture. I know Green Lantern was one of the most notable ones, but it was also used as a location in the 1970 James Bond film Let Die. It was a film location for other films like Project Power, Tall Girl, Capone, and Cloak and Dagger, just to say the few as a filming location. Yes, this airport is actually pretty big for a lot of filming here at this airport. So yeah, that wraps up the last slide for today. The last slide. Yeah, we're gonna get to New Orleans pretty quickly. Guys, what do you think about this Louisiana? Like I said, it's one of the most unique states in the country. It's a very different kind of state than most other states. If I got a comparison to Louisiana, I think Louisiana is to the United States what Quebec is for Canada. What I'm saying is that both, they have strong French influence on both states. Both areas are extremely unique compared to the rest of their respective countries. Both have really rich cuisine, heritage with cuisine, music, arts, or that's what really separates those two. That's what they feel unique. I guess the closest thing in the United States to Louisiana as well in the state probably is New Mexico. Would ironically be New Mexico, actually. Is kind of a similar boat is New Mexico. You see, because New Mexico has a lot of indigenous American heritage. It has a very unique cuisine. Its culture is unique compared to other ones in the states. And tons of stuff relating to history. Very different. But like I said, there's not many like here we go, guys. We're about to see New Orleans in the distance. Go to our left, we might actually see one of the bridges here. All this area to our left is the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway. This bridge area was actually built in 1956 and opened northbound in 1969. This bridge goes for 23.8 miles, and it holds the Guinness World Record for the longest continuous span over water in the world. It was once the largest bridge over water. But that was changed to when the Qingdao Jiaosu Bay Bridge opened in China. And the bridge is supported by over 9,500 concrete piling, which is crazy. Pretty crazy stuff. About to finally hit New Orleans. The one time I was in New Orleans was back in 2023. There was a cruise we did in New Orleans. 2023 out of Carnival Glory. He actually drove down from Indiana to New Orleans, which was pretty cool, though. We got to drive down there, Louisiana. It was pretty cool, though. Didn't get to think about visiting New Orleans in my lifetime. Here it is, guys. New Orleans. Finally reached New Orleans. So, the cool stuff. Here it is, downtown New Orleans. There's quite a few landmarks here in the city to cover here. Of course, we gotta visit Bourbon Street and all that. But there's also a lot of unique buildings and stuff too here in the States. A lot of them include shotgun houses, bungalow styles, to French Court, Annabelle homes, and the tallest building is the One Shell Square, which is 51 stories up. That was the Hancock Whitney Center. Of course, to our left, we can see one of the most famous buildings here in New Orleans. That is the Superdome. Hosted 8 Super Bowls. It's actually hosted 11 Super Bowls. It's hosted 8 Super Bowls. It's going to host the upcoming one. It hosted the last Super Bowl in 2025. But the Superdome is the iconic home of New Orleans sports. Here it is, the mighty Superdome. Right next to it is Smoothie King Center, home of the New Orleans Pelicans basketball. Originally known as Mercedes Superdome, it's now Sears Superdome. That's the face. What is this? Here it is, the nice super. The Saints are the beloved sports team in New Orleans. If I gotta say the most beloved team in the city, it is definitely the Saints. They are absolutely beloved. Of course, for a long time, the Saints were a terrible football team. It wasn't until the mid-2000s when the Saints hired Sean Payton as their coach and also brought in quarterback Drew Brees out of Purdue, and the rest is history. Go, fire on down. New Orleans, careful, Billings. Woo! And there's also a cruise ship here. Cruise ships do dock in New Orleans. Yes, cruise ships come here because apparently the port's wide enough to host such cruise ships. Of course, we'll be flying by the French Quarter. Of course, should be Jackson Square. I visited here, Jackson Square, the French market and such. Really cool. Here's the Jackson Square. Beautiful area. Around this area is the French Quarter. Of course, you can't forget about good old Bourbon Street, where a lot of the Mardi Gras stuff hold. I guess the one nice thing about taking the hits is I can easily turn on a dime if I need to. Look at that. Woo-wee. There's the Natchez. New Orleans, such a cool, colorful city. That's stunning. Alright, let's head to Lakefront Airport then to conclude the street. Carefully, crashed. Booyah! We did it. Yeah, New Orleans, really cool city, guys. I visited New Orleans once during a cruise out there. It was definitely very, very fun. New Orleans is a really cool city. If you can overlook the crime issues, I don't think you're going to get many cities as colorful and unique as New Orleans. No lie. We're going to run on we're going to land on 3-6 left. For today's stream. And I'm going to the like I said, thank you guys so much for coming here today on this trip here in Louisiana. and we'll stop here. Well, that's it, everyone, and our landing is -28. Another sputter smooth landing. I don't know how I can get away with it. Here we are, guys. Welcome to New Orleans, everyone. That wrap up today's stream here in beautiful New Orleans, Louisiana. So, guys, we will be returning back on Wednesday. We'll return to our Firefly Airstream. Be checking out we'll be checking out both Sweden or New Hub in Stockholm and a little bit of the Brazil World Update. Check that out. We're going to go ahead and say hello to our good friend Kaparia. She's probably streaming here. Or actually, no, we're going to say hello to MDA, actually. We're going to check out MDA's channel, and we're going to raid him. Take care, everyone, and have a great rest of your Sunday. I hope to see you all again soon. Goodbye, everyone, and see you soon.